I'm the Scholarly Communications Librarian at Western University of Health Sciences. And just so everyone knows up front, this workshop is being recorded. So by continuing to be in the workshop, you are consenting to being recorded. So if you don't want to be recorded, the recording will be available at chsu.libguides.com/scholarly-snippets/recordings. So you will be able to access the recording, and you can also look back on it later if there's anything that you miss, and the slides will also be posted there. So this is the slide here. So welcome to PubMed More and Less. So what I'm hoping to get out of today's workshop, this is going to be a fairly basic overview of PubMed, and I'll be basically showing you how to get more results if you want more results, and fewer results if you want fewer results. So the workshop series is part of a series to help you advance your research skills and support your scholarly activities. So at the end of this workshop, you should be able to use different techniques to expand and narrow the number of search results you get when searching PubMed, and also save articles for later use. So for those of you who aren't familiar with PubMed, I imagine most of you are, but it comprises 32 million citations for biomedical literature from Medline, life science journals, and online books. It's primarily an abstract database, so mostly you'll see abstracts, but there will also be occasional and increasing number of full text links as well. So if you are searching PubMed, not through your institution, just through the regular pubmed.gov link, you may not have access to as many full texts as if you go through your library website. So if you do, I recommend going through the library website or through the affiliation website. Like if you're affiliated with a hospital or so forth, going through their website, you may also often be given access to more full text articles. However, if you're just on your own or on a different device and you don't want to log in, one of the nice things about PubMed is that it is freely accessible to everyone, and that is why it's one of the most popular, as well as the largest biomedical databases. So PubMed, just to give you a brief overview of what it is, who provides it, it's from the United States National Library of Medicine. It started back in 1879 as Index Medicus, so the internet used to be books, basically. And then it was indexed in a database form in 1964. It was digitized, and then it became Medlars Online in 1971, which allowed remote medical libraries to access the index remotely as opposed to having to do it in print, so that made it a lot easier. And then Public Medline, aka PubMed, debuted in 1996, and this is then Vice President Al Gore getting his mind blown by the PubMed web interface. So that's where we're at now. So one thing that I want to tell you, I think if there's one thing that you want to take away from this workshop, is that there is no such thing as a perfect search. There's absolutely no perfect results. There is no search that is going to get you all of the possible results that you could want and nothing that you don't. You're either going to be filtering out through a bunch of things that aren't relevant, or you're going to make peace with the fact that you are missing out on articles that could potentially be relevant. So it just kind of depends on what you want. If you're doing something like a systematic review, or you're getting looking for an in-depth search of the literature, then you're going to want to get more results, and you're going to have to make peace with the fact that you're going to be sifting through a lot more irrelevant results. If you needed that broader, deeper background, or you really wanted to understand a topic in a lot of depth. However, you may have a very precise question that you need a very quick answer to, and so you may prioritize getting a smaller number of more relevant results. So there's nothing perfect. It all just kind of depends on what you need. So here are some things if you want more results. Here are some techniques that you can use. You can use synonyms linked together with or. So, for example, osteopathic manipulative treatment and osteopathic manipulative medicine. So one thing that you can do when you're starting your search is think of all of the different ways that the topic that you're interested in could be described, and different ways of saying that. If you're getting too many results, you can also use fewer terms. So you can start, if you had a lot of different things, like if you wanted COVID-19 and all of the different vaccines and vaccine hesitancy in all of these different very specific populations, you may realize that there's too much. You might take out the specific vaccines, or you may take out some of the populations and look at it more broadly. It's just kind of like dating. If there are more specific things that you want, if you're being very picky, you're going to get too few results. So you may have to look at your search terms again and decide which of them really are or aren't deal breakers. And you can also use broader or less specific terms. So for example, if you look for a novel treatment, if there's a novel drug and you want to see its efficacy in the treatment of lupus, but you're not coming up with anything, then perhaps you might look more broadly at autoimmune diseases and see if there are any articles that you could find that you could extrapolate the data from. So if you are getting too few results and you need to expand it, those are some techniques that you can use. And we'll be demonstrating all of these in PubMed as we go through as well. If you are getting, on the other hand, too many results and you want less, you're getting hundreds of thousands of results and you know you don't have time to go through that, because who has that kind of time? Then one of the things that you can do is you can use more terms and link them together with and. So you could say, all right, I want osteopathic manipulative treatment and low back pain and pregnancy. So you would be searching for all of those terms together. You could also use filters, which are, unlike on Instagram or Snapchat, they don't just make things look a certain way, they're not aesthetic, but what they do is they filter out anything that isn't tagged with what you're looking for. So you can filter it by, for example, just specific journal types, and it will pull up only the articles that are that specific article type, or only in that particular language. So you can use the filters to narrow things down that way. You could also use more specific terms. So for example, metastatic breast cancer as opposed to just breast cancer, and that will get you more specific results as well. And then you can also use subject terms or mesh terms. And these are basically terms that are assigned to an article. So people will go through and look at an article and say, okay, these are the topics that the article's about, and these are the terms that we're using to describe this topic. It's kind of like searching a hashtag on Twitter, basically, or in other forms of social media. So it's basically just like a hashtag for databases. And so you'll pull up all of the articles that are being tagged as being about that topic. So some of the filters that are available in PubMed, you can filter by publication date, by text availability. I encourage you not to do this except in cases of emergency. For example, if you need it today, then you can filter by full text. But the danger is that you'll eliminate relevant results that you may actually have access to through your library. Again, you can filter by article type, so by the type of study design and so forth. By language, by species. If you want to eliminate non-human studies, you can do that with that filter. You can limit by sex, age, and then also by, there are a few different subjects and journal categories that you can filter through as well. So let's go ahead and get started with a search. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up, and I will do a new share. Okay, so we have the PubMed website right here. And feel free to throw in any suggested search terms as we're going. So let's say I want to find articles about osteopathic manipulative treatment and pregnancy. Okay, why is PubMed not working right now? This is not great. I'm not loving this. Why? You were working just a second ago. Why? Why would you do this to me? Okay, we'll try again. And okay, so let's say we want to just start with osteopathic manipulative treatment. And then we get 1,773 results. So we can add and pregnancy, and we get 63 results. All right, or sorry, 56. So let's say we want a little bit more than that. So one thing that we can use is we can use different terms for osteopathic manipulative treatment. So those are just a few different terms. So osteopathic and manipulative treatment, or osteopathic manipulative medicine, or osteopathic manipulation. And then pregnancy. So let's see what that does. Okay, that gets us 449 results. So maybe now that's actually too many. So one thing that we can do, maybe we want to use these filters. So let's say we're looking for articles in the past 10 years. Okay, so that would get us down to 260. Now let's say we only want, we don't want just kind of case reports or reviews. Let's say that we only want, randomized controlled trials. Okay, that gets us down to 7. So maybe we look at that and go, ooh, that's not really enough. Maybe we'll also add in systematic reviews as well. So that gets us down to 23 results on the use of osteopathic manipulative treatment in pregnancy. But let's just make sure that we have got all of the different variations of pregnancy. Let's do pregnancy or pregnant. And if you are using ors, you really want to contain them within parentheses to just try and make sure that they are not going overboard, because if you put or with something without the parentheses, it might look for anything prior to that, or just anything that has that one last term. So if I didn't, so for example, if I did all of those, and pregnancy or pregnant, what you'll get is basically any of the articles that referred to pregnancy, or just anything referring to the word pregnant. And that is not, in fact, what we want. So we want to make sure that we are containing those in parentheses there. So we have 23 results, and that seems like a fairly reasonable amount for maybe a very specific focused question. So one of the things that I always like to do is I like to go ahead and change the display option using this display option box on the right below the search bar, and change the format from summary to abstract. And you can also change the number of results that you get per page, so that you don't have to keep clicking through to a bunch of different pages, but you are just scrolling more. And so one of the nice things about this is that it gives you the abstract, so you can get a better idea right away whether it's going to be something that you are interested in seeing and interested in reading more about. So the other thing that you can do is you can also expand these publication types and mesh terms, and you can see all of the subjects that it has been assigned. So let's say you're looking at low back pain and therapy, osteopathic manipulation methods, and then pregnancy and pregnant women, and then randomized controlled trials as topic. So what you can do with these, if you click on any one of these, you can actually search them in PubMed, or you can add them to your search. So let's, and if you see a star by it, that means that it's been designated as a major topic of the article. So disability evaluation, humans, female, et cetera, those are terms that are there, but not necessarily the major topic of the article, whereas osteopathic manipulation is a major topic of the article. So what we can do is we can go ahead and search that in PubMed. And so that will get us actually all of the articles that have been tagged about osteopathic manipulation. And as you can see in this little yellow bar below the number of results, you can see that I still have these filters applied. So it's just reminding me, hey, these are just the randomized control trial systematic reviews in the last 10 years. And if you wanted to clear them, so we could clear all of those and then get all of the results that are just about osteopathic manipulation methods as a major topic. You can also add in additional filters. So I'm going to go ahead and add in a language filter just to, we can just add any languages that you read. So we can just go ahead and add those. And this will just add them to the search bar. In order to limit it, you actually have to check the box. So that takes it down to 273 results. So that'll eliminate a few, and then you can do then the last 10 years. And then you can add in additional terms. So we can add pregnancy back in. And that actually gets us a smaller number of results than just searching osteopathic manipulation and pregnancy. So you can see that this is going, that using those subject terms is going to get you a smaller number of results, but they are going to be a lot more targeted. They're going to be a lot more relevant. So any questions so far in the chat? So, all right. So those are some basic techniques that you can use to filter the results. And I'll go ahead and show you some of the additional article type filters that you can use. So you could add in things like clinical conference. You could look at different phases of clinical trials. You can see observational studies, personal narratives. You can look for practice guidelines, for example. And one thing that you can also always do is you can look for retracted publications as well. Sometimes that's useful to know whether something has been retracted.
There's a question in the chat. Somebody wants to know if PubMed indexes pre-publication articles.
Yes, it does. It does index. So a lot of times they will appear before, sort of ahead of print. So yes, it does. I've seen them in there very often. It's going to depend on just kind of the speed and how quickly the articles, but yes, it does. It does have those in there. That's a great question. So sometimes you'll see, so you can see things ahead of print. You can even limit to publications in the last year. And so one thing that I want to check actually, so let's check for COVID-19 articles, and let's see if any of these articles have been retracted. So you can see 115,000 articles just in the past year in English. So let's look at, let's see if we have any retracted publications. Okay, 22 retracted publications. And if we add in some erratum, so sometimes if you're trying to get information out fast, there were some published errors in the article that were later updated and saying, hey, we got this thing wrong, this should have been incorrect. So though that is always something that's good to know, that you can use those. So you can see that this retracted article, that article is retracted. And if you click on it, you'll see it says in big red, notice that it has been retracted. PubMed tries to make this very transparent, very obvious, because it doesn't want people citing retracted articles. But yes, it was in fact retracted. And so there's the retraction, there's the expression of concern. And so you can see the different abstracts. So you can also see, so another way that you can find additional articles is if you click through, you can also see similar articles. And so these ones, you may say, all right, these are on similar topics, but guess what? These ones haven't been retracted, so maybe they're a little bit better. So then you have those narrative reviews, and then you can see which ones have cited it. So you can see that there are 313 articles that have cited it, hopefully before it got retracted, but also maybe after. So you can also find additional articles by seeing which articles have cited the article that you're looking at. So that's just sort of a handy extra technique. And if you ever want to go back to your previous searches, let's say you're like, okay, I know that during this search session, I had a really good search, but I don't remember what it was. I found this one article. Under the search bar, you can click on the Advanced tab, and you can scroll down and you'll see your history and search details. So you can see all of the searches that you've done, and you can click on the results to go back to those search results. So let's say we wanted to go back to this search, and let's say we wanted to save several of these articles. So let's say we like this one, we like these articles. So let's say we like those articles, and we're like, yes, these are good. These are the 7 articles that look like they're going to be a good match for me. So under the search bar, you'll see 3 icons that say save, email, and send to. And so if you click on save, you can send the citations to a file, and you can save this as either a CSV or a text file. You can also save it as abstract, but probably you just want the text or CSV if you just wanted a quick reminder of what search results you wanted. So you can save them that way. You can also email them to yourself. Just type in your email, or you could put in the email of colleague. And then you could also do send to, and you could send them to a clipboard and save them for later if you're going to continue searching. Or you can send them to Citation Manager if you have a citation manager like EndNote, BibTeX, RefWorks, anything like that, you can save them as well. And also, if you wanted to save individual articles, you can click on the Cite button and just click on the Download button to save the citation to your references. Or if you have an NCBI account, then you can click on the favorites and save it to your NCBI account.
Kelly?
Well. Yes.
There are a couple of questions, and one of which, because you're just talking about the citation feature, I think would be good to answer now. It says, sure. They ask, what is the difference between the NLM versus APA versus AMA reference format? Will one lose details over the other?
All right, so the APA is the American Psychological Association format. And so that's going to format it as like author date and parenthetical citation. AMA and NLM are pretty similar, but NLM typically, they both use the abbreviated journal format. AMA typically uses the raised numbers, and the NLM uses numbered format, but it's in parentheses instead. So those are fairly similar, but in your citation, you can also just download them. It doesn't really matter which citation style you use when you download it, unless you're just copying the citation. If you're just copying the citation, for example, from there, then yeah, you may want to click a particular one. So that's a good question. Did that answer your question? Okay. Are there other questions in the chat?
There is, which is good timing because it's 11:25.
Okay.
So someone asked, how can we exclude a term if it is coming up frequently in a search? For
Okay.
instance, acute respiratory failure that excludes COVID-19.
Yes. So one thing that you can do, and this is not, I don't use this operator as frequently, but you can use not. So not COVID-19. And if you do that search, it's going to bring up your acute respiratory distresses that do not contain COVID-19. So that is a great question. I didn't bring it up because it's a little more complicated and it's not something that comes up as frequently. You do want to be careful with not, because you can eliminate potentially relevant results, but it is a good way for this exact situation where there's basically one topic that's kind of blowing up the literature. And you know it's not relevant, and you're like, it's acute respiratory distress, but it's already negative. It's not COVID, it's something else. So yes, you can absolutely use the not to eliminate those results that you don't want. Other questions? Okay. So those, so with that, I'll just go ahead and go back to the slides as we're almost done. So this is just basically saving the articles for later use. And this is just a reminder that if you ever have any questions, you should always ask your librarian, whether that's your academic librarian at an academic institution that you're affiliated with, or if you work in a hospital, you may have a hospital librarian. You may be lucky enough to have both. So your librarians can always help you with navigating the specifics of PubMed through your institution. They can help advise you with additional search terms that you may not be familiar with. And they can also help you with the specifics of how you can get through full text through your institution, because they're all fairly similar, but your institution is going to have its own system as well. So always reach out and ask your librarians. They are always happy to help. So go ahead and if you can, please just make sure that you fill out the survey. Let us know how this went for you, whether this was helpful, and whether you would be interested in more advanced PubMed topics in the future, for example. Save the date for the next workshop on May 19th. This will be about reviews of the literature and different types of reviews, which I am looking forward to, and you can register for that at the link there. And these links can also be posted in the chat. Are there any final questions? Wonderful. So those are okay. Wonderful. It has been an absolute pleasure. And so there are the credits for the slide. And thank you all so much. It was delightful to be here with all of you. And I'm happy to answer any remaining questions that you have. And this will be recorded and will be posted at the previous link that I mentioned earlier. Thanks so much.